So my initial reaction to this was that Michigan State can go eat a dick. But I will go more in depth than that. This article was released about a day ago, maybe 2 days depending on your area. The point is, apparently on April 1st, April Fool's Day, Michigan State decided to make this law where any mode of communication, be it text messaging, cell phone calls, Facebook messaging, whatever, is just as much realistic under the law as it is talking to someone face to face. And they plan to use this to incriminate people because, you know, some people say, I punched so-and-so in the face, or threatened somebody's life, or whatever. It's the internet, you know? So, essentially, what they're saying here is that you have to be responsible for what you say online. No, I don't. And I won't. I will say it right now. I want to slit Mark Zuckerberg's throat, and if I ever got the chance, I would. And you know why I can say that? Because I am not held accountable for anything I say. Why am I not held accountable? Because I don't get to decide what I can and cannot post. Until I do, there is no liability on my part. Until every single entity on the internet waives all liability over what I say and lets me post what I want to post, then I am not responsible for what I say or don't say. It is up to the site owner to make sure that that kind of content does not exist on their website. How can you tell me that fucking administrators and moderators can find time to delete people's posts at all times of the day and fucking, you know, work diligently to ban people and to edit content, to delete accounts, to lock accounts, and do all this shit? And then when illegal stuff happens, conveniently, it's not their fault. It's just, you know, the individual's fault. They have to pay for it. But why doesn't Mark Zuckerberg have to pay for it? How many billions of fucking dollars does Mark Zuckerberg have? He can't afford to write a $10,000 check, you know? Oh, but suddenly it's not his fault. He can't be held responsible for what other people say. Well, then why should other people have to be held responsible for his little dick wanting to have to control every facet of what is going on? It doesn't make any sense to me, and it shouldn't be that way. There is no reason why people should have to be controlled and why their opinions should have to be stifled, and then at the very same time they're held responsible for whatever they say. It doesn't work that way. You cannot claim in one breath that Mark Zuckerberg, or any other web administrator for that matter, takes full accountability and can edit whatever they want, whenever they want, and that it's their website and they can do what they want. And, you know, basically control the environment. But then when something goes awry, when something goes as not planned, then all of a sudden we're responsible for our own content. But yet, we're not responsible for our own content any other time. You know, when it comes to just fucking posting, then it's the fucking moderators that own our asses. No, it doesn't work that way. And if I were in Michigan State, I would refuse to pay the $10,000 fine. They could go suck my asshole, because I would make them go make Mark Zuckerberg pay it or something. Because I'm just not going to pay it. It's that simple. You know, what can they do? You know, you could throw me in jail. Yeah, feed me, put a roof over my head. You go ahead and do that. But I'm not paying jack shit. I will fucking make your life a living hell. But by no means would I cooperate with that bullshit, and neither should you. But on that same notion, this could actually be good for the average person. Now, you might be thinking, how is that possible? Well, if we're bound by such a law, then by extension, Mark Zuckerberg and all the other fucking moderators should be bound by such a law. Now, mind you, this law only applies in Michigan, to my knowledge, but the point is that if you don't need any real proof that you have been, you know, threatened or committed violence against, that it's abstract, that just having unconsensual contact with another individual is enough to incite this law, well, then what the fuck do you call moderating? I do not consent to people sticking their dick in my posts. I do not consent to them banning me and to telling me what I can and cannot do. So, therefore, logically, they're as much of a criminal as I am. Whoop-de-doo. Now we're all criminals. You know, we's all socialists now. You know, what the fuck do you want to hear? So, is Mark Zuckerberg going to have to pay a $10,000 fine for every single person that's ever been banned or his post deleted or anything on Facebook? At least any Facebook post in Michigan? Because I doubt sincerely anyone in the state of Michigan consents to people having their posts fettered with. Oh, but then conveniently the trolls are going to say that you agreed to it in the terms of service. It doesn't work that way. You cannot sign a contract that lets people fuck you. That's why slavery was abolished. So no, either the law applies to all of us, or it doesn't apply to any of us. What we have here is the super rich think they're bulletproof. They think they're invulnerable, they think they're godlike, and they're about to get a firm, cold hand of reality smacking them in the face. Because it doesn't work that way. They cannot have their cake and eat it too. The poor have to deal with that on a daily basis. The poor never get to have their cake and eat it too. But for a very long time, the rich have, especially on the internet. But that's coming to an end, because as soon as people wake up and realize that they don't have to take this shit and make their life a fucking living hell, they'll back off. So, what I'm saying to you isn't that, you know, the law is necessarily shit. It might be shit, but I'm not going to go that far yet. You know, I trust the law. I trust state legislators to make at least reasonable decisions. Now, mind you, this could easily be turned against the common man, but it can also be turned against the bourgeoisie, because that's how the law works. The law is a great equalizer. The law is not something bound by, you know, mere force. It is spiritual. It's a spiritual thing. And, it's a spiritual thing that can affect anybody, anytime, if you're willing to let it. So, what I'm saying here is that while the rich have been able to get away with murder so far, being able to fuck with us and tyrannize us, control what we can and cannot say, but yet somehow we still have to take accountability for shit that's menial in comparison, and yet meanwhile Mark Zuckerberg is raking in more and more money and, you know, never has to pay out of that. What is the IRS going to come down on him? How many billions of dollars does he owe to the Revenue Service? You know, that's what I would like to know. But, you know, that's going to change as soon as people realize they can change it. When people realize that, hey, if I can be affected by this law, then someone else can be affected by this law. Well, then make it affect somebody else. Clearly, if you can get in trouble for making unwanted contact with somebody, well, then other people can get in trouble for making unwanted contact with you. And yes, it doesn't necessarily mean you're out of shit creek. It doesn't mean you're out of trouble. But, hey, you know, if you're going to be miserable, you may as well bring everybody down with you. Drag them down to your level. Make Mark Zuckerberg have to roll in the mud like us poor folk. And then make him see how it is. And maybe then, maybe just then, it'll click inside his pea little brain that, you know what, maybe it wasn't such a good idea fucking with people. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea lying and cheating and scheming and clawing his way to the top and stabbing people in the back and taking their ideas and things like that. If you want to fight sociopaths, you gotta think like a sociopath without losing your humanity. That's the trick. The trick is to retain that decency, that pride, that dignity, but still being a cold, ruthless, heartless bastard that's willing to do anything for the sake of righteousness. I'm not telling you to just be an asshole. I'm telling you to be an asshole for the right reasons. I'm telling you to be an asshole for the greater good. I'm telling you to be an asshole for the rule of law and for equality and for justice. And we can have those things, but you gotta be willing to fight for it. And you gotta be willing to think that way. You cannot think that, oh, things will never change. Oh, things aren't that bad. I might get in trouble. No, it doesn't fucking matter. Things are already bad, and they're only going to get worse. They're only going to fuck you more and more. They're not going to stop. They don't care about you. There's no amount of crying, no amount of pain you can go through that's going to make them change a new leaf. They're evil. They're soulless. They have no hearts. They're not suddenly going to pull back and think about what they did. They're not going to feel bad about it. So it's time you started baring your fangs. That's all I'm saying here. I'm not trying to, change the world. I'm not trying to enlighten people. I'm giving you the heads up. That's how the world works. And until you're willing to see that, you're going to continue getting bullied, getting pushed around, told what you can and cannot post, and yet magically, miraculously, somehow you're still held accountable for what you post, even though you have no control over it. But then that could be said about all of life. You have no control over anything in your life. You don't get to control what you eat, where you sleep, what you do for a living. It's all pre-constructed. People pretend you have this illusion of choice. People pretend that you have these options, but you really don't. Everything is bound by your environment and past situations and everything like that. And because there's this tiny little delusion that you have some kind of control over your life, that all of a sudden you're bound to do all this shit, that you're responsible for everything, and that if anything ever goes wrong or you do anything bad, oh, it's all on you. No, it isn't fucking all on you, because you have no control over anything. 99.999 infantile% of shit is not your responsibility. You cannot change any of it. And that's what you say every day. Well, I can't change anything. Well, then you're not responsible for anything. So pick. Are you either responsible for what happens in the world, or are you not? And if you are not, then say, fuck you. I'm not in control of anything. I can't decide what I get paid. I can't decide who I sleep with. They have to be willing to let me sleep with them. I can't stop people from banning my posts or deleting me or whatever. I can't do a lot of things. So why should I have to take responsibility for this? Why should I have to make the sacrifice when nothing has ever led to evidence that I was the one in control? So that's what I'm trying to say here. And I'm sure the trolls will be tippy-typing away, just to contradict me. But you know what? Let them take responsibility. Instead of you having to pay a $10,000 fine, why don't you try to track down those motherfuckers and make them pay the $10,000 fine? I'm sure the government wouldn't mind. They don't care where the money comes from, just as long as they get it. Khorne cares not where the blood flows, only that it does. So that's all I gotta say.